He failed as an artist. He was rejected twice by the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. He was homeless, sleeping in shelters, eating at soup kitchens. He had nothing. He was nobody. And yet, within 20 years, this same man would command the largest army in European history, murder 6 million Jewish people in cold blood, and drag the entire world into the deadliest conflict it has ever known. Adolf Hitler did not rise to power by force. He was voted in, democratically, by ordinary people, teachers, farmers, factory workers, mothers, who believed he was the answer to their problems. This is not just the story of one evil man. This is the story of how an entire civilization lost its mind, and who was responsible for leading it there. It all began with a boy born in a small Austrian town, to a father who beat him and a mother who adored him. This is the story of how one human being became the greatest architect of mass death the modern world has ever seen. April 20th, 1889. A boy is born in the small Austrian border town of Braunau am Inn. His father, Alois, is a customs official, cold, controlling, a man who settled arguments with his fists and believed that fear was the same thing as respect. His mother, Clara, is the complete opposite, gentle, utterly devoted, consumed by love for this child. Adolf is her everything. From the very beginning, he lives between two extremes: a father who terrifies him and a mother who worships him. That combination, cruelty on one side, unconditional adoration on the other, builds a person who craves total control and cannot tolerate rejection. In primary school, he is bright, confident, and a natural leader. Teachers notice him, classmates follow him. Then secondary school arrives and everything unravels. His grades collapse. His father wants him in the civil service. Adolf wants to be an artist. Neither will back down. In 1900, his younger brother Edmund died of measles at just 6 years old. Something closes in on Adolf after that. A darkness settles that never fully lifts. His father died 3 years later. Adolf drops out of school at 16 with nothing to show for it. But Clara still believes in him. She funds his dream. In 1907, Adolf Hitler traveled to Vienna and auditioned for the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. They reject him. He tries again the following year, rejected a second time, not even admitted to the entrance exam. That same year, Clara died of breast cancer. She is 47 years old. In the space of 12 months, Hitler lost his dream, and the only person who ever truly believed in him. He is 18 years old, alone in Vienna, with no money and no direction. And that is precisely when the most dangerous version of Adolf Hitler begins to take shape. Vienna in the early 1900s is one of the most beautiful and most divided cities in the world. Grand opera houses and imperial palaces, but also a city crackling with nationalism, class resentment, and a rising tide of anti-Semitism that runs through its politics like a poison. Hitler survives by selling hand-painted postcards to tourists. He sleeps in homeless shelters. He eats at charity soup kitchens. But he reads, constantly, obsessively. Vienna is flooded with cheap political pamphlets and anti-Semitic literature, and Hitler devours all of it. He watches Karl Lueger, the wildly popular mayor of Vienna, who built his entire political career on open anti-Semitism and was elected democratically on the back of it. Hitler studies him closely. He observes how a man can take ordinary people with ordinary fears and aim all of that emotion like a weapon. Lueger gives his crowds an enemy, a scapegoat, and then a savior. Hitler takes careful notes. He arrives in Vienna with vague prejudices. He leaves with a fully formed worldview, built on the belief that Germany had been betrayed, that Jewish people and Marxists had corrupted the pure German race, and that someone needed to take it all back by force. In 1913, he crossed the border into Munich. The ideology is complete. The hatred is hardened. All he needs now is an opportunity. And in the summer of 1914, the world hands him one. When war breaks out in 1914, Hitler volunteers immediately, not for Austria, but for Germany, the nation he has spent years reading about in Viennese pamphlets. He serves as a dispatch runner on the Western Front, one of the most dangerous roles in the trenches, carrying messages through open ground, while artillery and machine gun fire tear the air apart around him. He earns the Iron Cross First Class, one of the highest honors available to a soldier of his rank. For 4 years, he lives in the trenches, watches men die beside him, and finds a sense of purpose he has never known before. Then, in October 1918, a mustard gas attack near Ypres temporarily blinds him. He is lying in a hospital bed when the news arrives. Germany has surrendered. Hitler later wrote that he wept for the first time since his mother's funeral. Lying there blinded, he became convinced he had been chosen, that Germany had not truly been defeated on the battlefield, but had been stabbed in the back, betrayed from within by Jews and Marxists who surrendered when victory was still within reach. This was a lie. Germany lost because it was exhausted, outgunned, and outmanned. But Hitler believed the myth completely. He leaves the hospital with his ideology fully hardened and a sense of personal mission that will never leave him. Germany in 1919 was a broken country. The Treaty of Versailles strips it of territory, dismantles its military, and forces it to accept full responsibility for the war. Inflation destroys the economy. At its worst, a single loaf of bread costs billions of marks. The middle class watches as everything it has built dissolves overnight. This is the world Hitler walks back into, and he understands it instinctively because he knows exactly what resentment feels like from the inside. He joins a tiny political group with roughly 50 members who meet in the back rooms of Munich beer halls. But Hitler can speak. In person, on a stage, in front of a crowd, he is electrifying. He takes the rage and grief and humiliation his audience carries, names it, validates it, and then aims it. Crowds that start at 50 soon fill halls of 6,000. The Nazi Party is born. In November 1923, Hitler attempted a coup. It fails. He is arrested and sentenced to prison, but uses his trial as a public stage. He serves 9 months and dictates Mein Kampf, laying out in explicit detail exactly who he blames and exactly what he intends to do about it. The world will later claim it did not know what Hitler intended. Mein Kampf makes that claim very difficult to sustain. He is released, Germany stabilizes, and the Nazi Party stagnates. Until 1929, when the Wall Street crash pulls the world down with it. By 1932, the Nazi Party was the largest in parliament. On January 30th, 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. The conservative establishment believes they can control him. They cannot, and by the time they understand that, it is already far too late. Hitler dismantled democracy in months. The Reichstag fire in February 1933 gave him the pretext within hours to issue a decree suspending civil liberties across Germany. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to a fair trial, gone in a single signature. 6 weeks later, the Enabling Act passes, giving Hitler the power to make laws without parliament, without debate, without opposition. The Weimar Republic is legally dead, not overthrown by tanks, voted out of existence by politicians who convinced themselves they had no choice. Trade unions dissolve, political parties are banned. Radio becomes a direct pipeline for Nazi propaganda under Joseph Goebbels, the most gifted and dangerous propagandist of the 20th century. Goebbels understands that truth is less powerful than feeling. Repeat a lie loudly enough, consistently enough, through enough channels, and it stops being a lie. It simply becomes reality. The Nuremberg rallies begin, vast, choreographed spectacles of torchlight and military precision, designed not as political events, but as religious rituals of power and belonging. By August 1934, Hindenburg is dead. Hitler merges the offices of Chancellor and President. The German army swears a personal oath of loyalty, not to the nation, not to the Constitution, but to Adolf Hitler himself. In under 2 years, a functioning democracy has become a personal dictatorship. Every number in what follows represents a person, a name, a family, a life that was lived and then deliberately, systematically taken. The persecution of Jewish people does not begin with gas chambers. It begins with paperwork. The 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped Jewish Germans of their citizenship, legally classifying a community that has lived in Germany for centuries as alien, subhuman, and other. Then comes Kristallnacht, November 1938. In a single coordinated night, over 7,500 Jewish businesses were destroyed, 1,400 synagogues were burned, and approximately 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and taken to concentration camps. The broken glass covers the streets of German cities like snow. The world watches. Most do very little. When the war begins and German forces sweep across Europe, the persecution accelerates with every new territory conquered. Jewish communities are catalogued, confined to ghettos, stripped of everything, their homes, their businesses, their names. In the Warsaw Ghetto alone, over 400,000 people are confined in less than 4 square kilometers. Then come the Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing units that follow the advancing army and murder Jewish communities en masse. At Babi Yar, outside Kiev, 33,771 Jewish people are shot over just 2 days. But even this is considered too slow. On January 20th, 1942, 15 senior Nazi officials met at a villa in Wannsee for approximately 90 minutes. They finalized the administrative details of what they call the final solution, the systematic, continent-wide murder of every Jewish person in Europe. 6 extermination camps were built in occupied Poland. People arrive by train, told they are being resettled. There are no showers. By the end of the war, 6 million Jewish people were dead. Among them, 1.5 million children. The Holocaust did not happen because Hitler alone willed it. It requires the cooperation of thousands, bureaucrats, soldiers, train drivers, neighbors who watched families taken from their homes and said nothing. An entirely educated modern society allows itself to be led there. Step by step, law by law, train by train. Germany's early military victories are staggering. Poland falls in 27 days. France, the country that held Germany to a standstill for 4 years in World War I, falls in 6 weeks. By summer 1940, Nazi Germany controlled most of Western Europe. Then Hitler begins to make catastrophic mistakes. The Battle of Britain fails. The RAF holds. Churchill refuses to negotiate. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched the invasion of the Soviet Union, the largest military operation in human history. His generals expect it to be over before winter. They do not prepare winter uniforms. They are catastrophically wrong. The Eastern Front becomes the most brutal theater of war in history. Then Hitler declares war on the United States following Pearl Harbor, adding the most powerful industrial economy on Earth to his enemies. While already fighting a two-front war, he is beginning to lose. The turning point comes at Stalingrad, where over 300,000 German soldiers surrendered in February 1943. From that moment, the story of the war is the story of Germany losing. D-Day lands on June 6, 1944. The Soviet army pushes west. Germany is caught in a vice from both sides with no way out. Hitler retreats into fantasy, moving phantom armies on maps, blaming his generals for every failure. In July 1944, his own officers planted a bomb under his conference table. He survives by chance. The conspirators are executed. By April 1945, Soviet forces were closing in on Berlin itself. Hitler retreats to his underground bunker beneath the ruins of the city, 56 years old, but looking 80. On April 29th, he marries Eva Braun. He dictates his final political testament, blaming the Jewish people to the very last word. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler shot himself. 8 days later, Germany surrenders unconditionally. Adolf Hitler has been dead for over 80 years. More books have been written about him than about almost any other human being who has ever lived. Not because he deserves admiration, but because understanding him honestly, clearly, and without flinching is one of the most important things a civilized society can do. The alternative to understanding is forgetting, and forgetting is precisely how it happens again. His story teaches us that desperation makes people dangerous, that in a crisis, ordinary people reach for simple answers to complex problems and for leaders who speak with absolute certainty. It teaches us that propaganda works on everyone without exception, and that the only real defense is a free press and a population willing to question what it is told. It teaches us that the Holocaust required not one monster, but thousands of ordinary people making choices every single day to participate, to look away, or to resist. And it teaches us that democracy is not permanent. Germany in 1933 was one of the most culturally advanced nations in the world. It lost its democracy legally in months with the cooperation of its own institutions. Hitler was not supernatural. He was not inevitable. He was a human being, shaped by a brutal father, devastating rejection, poisonous ideas absorbed in a bitter city, and a world that handed him a crisis at exactly the right moment to exploit. The conditions that made him possible, desperation, propaganda, complicity, and organized hatred, are not unique to 1930s Germany. They can exist anywhere, in any country, in any era, including this one. That is why this story still matters. Not as a historical curiosity, not as a monument to evil, but as a mirror, a warning, a reminder that the price of forgetting is one humanity has already paid in 80 million lives and cannot afford to pay again. Never forget.